2019! Whoa, this year has absolutely flown by already, hasn't it? And despite the very real fears that are currently lingering on the world stage, as well as in the atmosphere and also the alien empire making its way toward our planet as we speak. Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that, should I? The good news is that horror cinema is certainly in full swing this year, and I'll happily admit, whilst there have been many misses so far this year, there have been some resounding hits in horror cinema, and yet luckily for us, even in September, there's still quite a bit more to come. Hello horror fans, what's going on? And once again, welcome back to the Scary Channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. As per usual, I'll be your horror host Jack Finch. Today we curiously take a look at the top 5 most anticipated horror movies of 2019, part 2. Roll the clip.
I'm thinking zombies.
What?
You know, zombies. Ghouls. The undead.
For the curious amongst you, you'll be interested to know that that clip was from Jim Jarmusch's 2019 horror comedy, The Dead Don't Die, starring Bill Murray, Adam Driver, Chloe Sevigny, Danny Glover, Steve Buscemi, Tom Waits, Caleb Landry Jones, Iggy Pop. The list goes on, and you know what? This is going to be a first for Top 5 Scary Videos because this film was such a huge disappointment. Maybe I missed something, but yeah, not good. I was stoked to see it considering the cast, but my interest soon shriveled like a played out country song. I mean, find out for yourself, but hey, that's the point of cinema, right? Also important, but Richard Stanley's 2019 movie, The Colour Out of Space, starring Nick Cage, premieres this September at TIFF, but we'll be leaving that for another list. On with the show. Kicking off at number 5, Sweetheart. And I'm a little bit annoyed because I can't find a trailer for this movie anywhere, but take my word for it, Sweetheart will be a breath of fresh air for all of us horror fans once it finally makes its way through the production cycle. And it comes from a director who is certainly making waves in all the right places, a young filmmaker by the name of J.D. Dillard. And if you've never heard of him, that's because this is his first foray into horror cinema. Don't sound convinced? Alright, I'll give you that one, but yeah, whatever, we can take a risk every now and then, can't we? Dillard's first film, 2016 Slight, certainly had its issues, but it demonstrated a keen eye for cold, hard visuals, and according to sources, that's exactly what his 2019 Sundance release of Sweetheart demonstrated. And surprisingly enough, this film has more in line with the classic horror thrillers of Hitchcock's ilk than anything else. Sweetheart is a simple horror film with a minimal cast and an emphasis on tension and visual form, an otherwise ignored product in most modern horror cinema, which in many ways is the reason why it makes this list. It tells the tale of a young woman named Jen, played by Kiersey Clemons, an awesome talent on the rise, whose character washes ashore on a small tropical island in the remote Pacific and quickly realizes that help isn't coming to save her. Now, this movie is spacious. There are long spans of no dialogue given the one-woman performance by Clemons, and its horror is delivered by means of visual form. But guys, that's a great thing. If Sweetheart is indicative of the changing weather systems of horror, then we're in for a good new decade. Also, if sources are to be trusted from Sundance, then this film has one of the most well-constructed creature features of recent times, because as we all know, if you wash up on a deserted island in horror cinema, you're certainly never alone. Fingers crossed, this one's awesome. Swinging in at number 4, The Troupe. Again, another trailerless movie, but whatever, once the ball gets rolling on this incredibly exciting project, if the James Wan Atomic Monsters labels marketing team is anything to go by, I'm sure we'll be filled to the eyeballs with scout-based flesh-eating horror. And yeah, we're kind of cheating with this entry, guys, considering the fact that production hasn't yet started, and the likelihood of this film being released in 2019 is 0 to none, but hey, it officially got picked up in 2019, so it kind of counts. Now, you might be thinking, Jack, what the hell are you talking about? Slow down and make some sense. And yeah, James Wan is set to produce Nick Cutter's awesome 2014 horror novel, The Troupe, and if you've read that novel, you know that it's going to be mighty difficult to make a non-awesome movie out of it. The thing is, I'm fairly certain that this film is in safe hands, and whilst historically I've been a little critical of James Wan, his production studio Atomic Monster does not pick up an already existing title unless they're confident that they can make a good movie. I'm looking at you, lights out. And whilst the studio was a little shaky at the start, their projects in development now are impressive in their own right, and also it's going to be pretty difficult to make a mess of The Troupe, particularly with E.L. Katz attached to direct, the man responsible for the surprisingly brilliant 2013 indie film Cheap Thrills. If we're taking that as a sample source, The Troupe is going to be a memorable horror experience. Again, fingers crossed. Next up at number 3, Satanic Panic.
I don't know what's happening. My mom and her butt buddies are booty calling Baphomet, and they're not going to stop until you're strapped to a barbed wire altar.
Finally, a trailer Whew, it's been a long time coming. And this entry is a little bit of a weird one, really. First and foremost, this film is a horror comedy. And second most, I guess, this is not a mainstream movie whatsoever. In fact, it was produced by Fangoria, the legendary horror magazine that I'm sure you're all aware of, and directed by Chelsea Stardust in her debut feature-length movie, a first-time indie director that has certainly been making waves in the die-hard corners of horror fandom. So why should we care? Well, we should care because this isn't a movie that would ever be made by a major studio, nor would it ever be picked up by someone like A24 to appreciate its success. You see, we often talk about horror comedy being an oddly specific subgenre, as it encapsulates what we all love about horror cinema as a whole, and then pokes fun at all those themes. This is exactly what this movie does, plus it was made with a clear reverence and adoration for the genre of horror. Chelsea Stardust is, first and foremost, a horror fan. Satanic Panic has a simple premise. A pizza delivery girl named Sam, played by Hayley Griffith, accepts a delivery to a mansion out in the Hollywood Hills. Unknowingly to her, it's during the meeting of a satanic cult headed by Rebecca Romijn, who is awesome in this movie and whose fellow cultists are in the midst of summoning none other than the Dark Lord himself, Baphomet, and need a virgin to sacrifice, as you do. This film is campy and kitsch, and it's a throwback to such Brian Yuzna classics as 1992 Society. Seriously, this film is so reminiscent of many classics of the 80s and 90s that came before it that you'd be mistaken to think it was made way back when. Saying that though, it's genuinely funny for the most part, and although it doesn't ask too much of its audience, there is a surprisingly huge amount of intellect behind this movie despite its somewhat goofy persona. Also, it's being released this Friday, as in today, so yeah, check it out. Coming in at number 2, Varia.
Both tranquil and practical, it has all you'd need and all you'd want. And as for the prices, it's no wonder these houses are getting snapped up.
Alright, here we go, perhaps the most complete and forward-facing 2019 horror movie on this list, and a film that certainly caused quite a stir at the Cannes Film Festival, and so until then we'll be holding our breath for a release, although a late 2019 movie is the likeliest scenario. So what's all the fuss about? Well, despite being a movie wrapped up in Twilight Zone and Black Mirror goodness, the main facet is this guy, Lorcan Finnegan, an incredibly exciting Irish director who has slowly been making waves for his keen blend of mundanity and paranormal curiosity. As a side note, his 2016 movie Without Name is definitely worth a watch if you get the chance, but it seems that his 2019 directorial effort based on a screenplay that he himself wrote has finally reached its critical fever pitch. In that regard, I think Varia may be one of the most impressive sleeper horror hits in quite some time. It tells the tale of Tom and Gemma, played by Jesse Eisenberg and Imogen Poots respectively, whose performances in this film are equally memorable, and whether you're a fan of Eisenberg or not, he really goes leaps and bounds in this movie, and Imogen Poots steals the show as an unwittingly and equally confused new parent. And whilst that might be spoilers, really not everything as it may seem in this movie. The story outlines the couple in a desperate search for their perfect starter home, and after following a strange and mysterious real estate agent to a brand new housing development known only as Yonder, the couple find themselves trapped in a constantly changing yet frighteningly identical suburban neighbourhood. Whilst irking on science fiction rather than classic horror, if you're a fan of the weird blended with the mundane or have a fear of the uncanny, then you will find a lot to be enjoyed here. Also, if you're scared of real estate agents, yeah, you'll see what I mean. And finally, coming in at number 1 spot, It, Chapter 2.
Hello. Please.
I mean, I'm not scared of clowns at all. But it pretty much goes without saying that our number 1 spot to this part 2 list of anticipated horror movies of 2019 undoubtedly has to go to It, Chapter 2. You know what's awesome? And yeah, the reviews are out for this film, and whilst they're not as resounding as they could have been, everyone's a critic, right? The most awesome part of It is that we get a part 2 to a movie that is A, not only worthy of note, but B, fitting to the story, the theme, and not a cash grab footnote like many other horror franchises. Really, the only way to pay homage to the works of Stephen King is to make sense of his story, and that is exactly what this 2019 release has done. So yeah, good stuff. We can get the important stuff out of the way, and now we can let Pennywise do his horrifying little thing. Allegedly, there is a scene in this movie that doesn't appear in the novel that is reportedly more terrifying than the whole "Hello, Georgie" scene in the first movie. And you know what? The book. That's reason enough for you guys to be excited about this movie. And guess what? For the astute amongst you, it's also being released today, right now, Friday the 6th of September. So what are you waiting for? Go and join the Losers Club as they reunite and return to Derry in their attempt to perform the ritual of Tude and try to finally put an end to Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise the Dancing Clown. Listen, we don't need to spell out how fantastic the tale of it is, and for those of you that have read the novel, you know exactly what the final half of Stephen King's story entails. But guess what? We're throwing you all a curveball, and for one lucky viewer, we're giving away this guy. A brand new hardback copy of Stephen King's resounding novel, courtesy of Top 5 Scary Videos and our awesome editor, Dylan. Cheers, dude. Also, it's heavy enough to defeat a horrifying cosmic clown, so that's always a bonus. That's right, guys, you heard it here first. We're giving away a copy of Stephen King's It. It's one of the finest novels ever written, and all you need to do is tell us what scares you and why. And you can let us know in the comment section below or on Twitter, links below, and yeah, you can win. How great is that? Yeah. Well, there we have it, horror fans. Another first for this video. Not only a #1 spot, but also an It Chapter 2 giveaway. What do you guys think? Do you agree with this list? Disagree? Have any more to add? Then let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below, as well as any choice picks of your own. Before we depart from today's video, if you'd like to continue on with your horror recommendation binge, then please make sure to take a look at our playlist compiled neatly for your viewing enjoyment. Also, make sure to let us know why you want to get your hands on this awesome copy of it, and we'll be picking our winner in the next few videos. Unfortunately, on that note, that's all we've got time for in today's video. Cheers for sticking around all the way until the end. If you were a fan of this video or just Top 5 Scary Videos in general, then please be a dear and hit that thumbs up button as well as that subscribe bell, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. As per usual, I've been your horror host Jack Finch. You're watching Top 5 Scary Videos, and until next time, you take it easy.